We're following breaking news right now where local lawmakers are about to hold a news conference on what Connecticut is doing to protect women's reproductive rights. All of this in the wake of the unprecedented leak of a Supreme Court draft opinion that would overturn the landmark case of Roe v. Wade. We are waiting right now for State Representatives Jillian Gilchrist and Matt Blumenthal. Jillian is speaking now. Let's listen in.
Really trying day as we respond to the leaked opinion of the Supreme Court regarding Roe, and as we stand strong in our defense of reproductive rights here in the state of Connecticut. Many of us, unfortunately, were expecting this opinion. What I was not expecting was the misogyny and the anti-choice rhetoric that comes along with it. Alito is arguing that we no longer need abortion because our country has understood out-of-wedlock pregnancy differently. That is sexist. It completely ignores a woman's autonomy, and it disregards the experience of an individual being pregnant in the United States. Women and pregnant people will only truly be free when they have access to all of their reproductive health care, including abortion care. Which is why I am so proud of the Reproductive Rights Caucus and of our state legislature for passing the Reproductive Freedom Defense Act. Not only does this expand access to abortion care here in the state of Connecticut by allowing advanced practitioners for whom it falls within their scope of practice to provide abortion care, but it also ensures protections for individuals seeking abortion care in our state and for providers providing abortion care. I am horrified by this leaked opinion, but I am more horrified about what we are about to see happen to women across this country in the coming days. With that, I am proud to turn it over to my good co-chair of the Reproductive Rights Caucus, Representative Matt Blumenthal.
Thank you, Jillian. As Jillian stated, today is a devastating day responding to the leaked draft decision out of the Supreme Court that came out last night. The Supreme Court has indicated that it is ready to overthrow almost 50 years of precedent protecting women's equality, autonomy, and their right to control their own bodies and futures. And it just makes me that much more glad that this General Assembly has seen fit in rapid fashion to pass the Reproductive Freedom Defense Act, which is the strongest law protecting reproductive freedom in the country, and will serve as a blueprint for states across the country seeking to protect the right to choose. It will create a safe harbor here in Connecticut for providers, for people seeking care from across the country, for those assisting their friends, family, or others in seeking legal abortion care here in the state of Connecticut. And we know that the anti-abortion movement will not be satisfied with leaving abortion rights and abortion laws to the states. Already, we have seen laws being passed in other states specifically targeting legal abortion in other states that protect it. Already, based on reporting out of the Washington Post this past weekend, we have seen that federal legislators are planning to try to pass a nationwide ban on abortion. And so it is just that much more important and essential that states like Connecticut stand up and defend our residents, our doctors, our nurses, our other providers, and prepare and defend these people, protect them against the legal attacks that they're going to face coming from other states. And as disturbing as the overruling of Roe would be in general, the draft decision that was leaked last night is even more horrendous. Not only did it cite an 18th century legal commentator who supported the burning of witches and supported marital rape, but the logic of the decision would eliminate the right to same-sex intimacy. It would eliminate the right to same-sex marriage. It would eliminate the right to contraception. and it could very well eliminate the right to interracial marriage. This court, or at least this draft decision, would set us back almost a century in terms of the fundamental rights that we as Americans have come to understand to be part of our national heritage and our birthright. And that's why we stand here together to say to everyone out there, to everyone seeking to exercise their legal right to control when and whether they will be pregnant, we will defend you. That's why we are here to say to every provider providing legal abortion and other reproductive health care, we will defend you. That is why we are here to say to every LGBTQ person across this country who wants to come here for care or to exercise their rights in any other way, we will defend you. Here in Connecticut, we believe in these rights, and we will defend you. Thank you.
I mean, no disrespect to our constitutionals, but I'm going to invite up Speaker of the House, Matt Ritter, because we're in session. Come right on up.
Well, the constitutionals won't have to wait long because I don't have much to say. I will say the same thing I said about a year and a half ago on this topic, and it is all that the woman in my life would expect me to say. It is a woman's choice.
Thank you, Speaker. Lieutenant Governor.
Let me take off my Ruth Bader Ginsburg mask. Justice Ginsburg is turning over in her grave right now. This is a dark and ominous day for our country. The court's opinion is infuriating and alarming because it rips away the freedom to decide when and if to have a family. This decision moves us backwards by making women second-class citizens and by cutting off equitable access to critical medical care. By design, this opinion disadvantages immigrant, indigenous women, and women of color, and it violates our due process and equal protection rights. Today, I speak to the millions of women in our state and across the country who are feeling terrified and trapped as their rights are obliterated. I want you to know that Governor Lamont and I will be champions for reproductive freedom and defenders against any attempt to dismantle our fundamental rights. There is a reason why Connecticut is ranked as the second best state for women in our country, and it is because our state has enshrined in its law Roe versus Wade protections. And we have also, thanks to the incredible work of the legislators standing behind me, taken bold action to protect women coming to our state to receive medical care and to protect medical providers who give that care. So, in closing, I'd like to say that as Representative Blumenthal has alluded to, this opinion is showing us that the Supreme Court intends not only to roll back the reproductive rights of women, but the rights of LGBTQ people across our country and the rights of people of color. And I want you to know that the governor and I and our partners in the legislature are your line of defense. We are ready and we will fight against any attack on fundamental freedoms in our state. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz. Now we'll hear from Attorney General William Tong.
Thank you. Let me join Governor Bysowitz in thanking this legislature and the governor and lieutenant governor. Thank you for being here, Representative Walker, after being on your feet for many hours last night. Thank you for passing the most recent reproductive rights bill, soon to become law, last year's crisis pregnancy centers law. Thank you so much for standing up for health care here in Connecticut and protecting Connecticut families. I have some thoughtful remarks to make, but let me tell you first how I really feel. This is an outrage. It is an attack, nothing less than an attack on women and patients and Connecticut families. What the Supreme Court proposes to do is to carpet bomb fundamental rights that are hardwired into who we are as Americans. And if this decision becomes more than a draft decision and becomes real for all of us, let me tell you what will happen. It will split this country in two. Half of this country, like Connecticut, led by Connecticut, will respect women, patients, doctors, honor their choices, respect the law that has stood for as long as I have been alive. The other half of this country, 26 states, will make them criminals. 36 million women and their lives and their health care and their families at risk. That is what this decision will bring our nation. And I'm really concerned because, frankly, there are many other great issues pending before the Supreme Court right now. On immigration, there are several cases. On our efforts to prevent gun violence here in this state and across the country. So many other cases protecting the rights of working people here in Connecticut and across the country. Every major decision now hangs in the balance. All of those cases, we're involved in almost every single one of those cases. And now all of that is thrown into doubt because of this catastrophic security breach and leak that now impairs the work of our highest court, the most important legal institution in this country. How can we trust it now? Now that decisions are opened up for the public to see and comment on even before they're done. This is a really sad and dangerous moment for our country. And as I said, 36 million women, 26 states, millions upon millions of people and families. A few words have been said about this draft decision. None of us have had a chance to really dig into it and analyze Justice Alito's draft words, but let me say a couple of things. He attacks what he thinks is the weakness in the reasoning of Roe, a decision that has stood for 49 years, a decision that has held up over now generations for Americans here in this country. But he overlooks his own weakness. He wants to rely on traditions. He calls it a tradition to criminalize abortion. Is that a tradition anybody wants to hold on to? No. And then he says that there comes a time when the Supreme Court has to look at precedent, the principle, as we lawyers call it, of stare decisis. And even though stare decisis commands us to follow the law and precedent, sometimes you have to go the other way and overrule past precedent. And yet, at the end of his decision, he says, but we've got to do our job and respect stare decisis. Well, which one is it, Your Honor? Or are you just trying to get to a result that you decided long before you took the oath of office as a Supreme Court Justice? As the speakers before me have said, it is now up to the states. It's clear that the Supreme Court, we feared that this moment would come. Hopefully, because it's still a draft decision, they will make another decision. I know that many of us are not confident that they will. We are now disheartened to hear that members of Congress, looking forward to potentially taking control of one or two chambers, want to outlaw abortion and reproductive rights and health care across the country at a federal level. We will fight that effort, tooth and nail. Any court, any place, Connecticut will be there and we will fight. And it will be on the states. They will come for us. Know that it's that bad, okay? Let's just not mince words. They will come for us. And the only thing standing between them and the people and the families of this state are all of you. And I know that everybody standing here is committed. Everyone here will fight. We will defend you. I will defend you. Anytime, any place. This is health care. It is a fundamental human right, and this will not stand in Connecticut. Connecticut will fight to protect women, patients, and reproductive health care.
Thank you, Attorney General. Next, we'll hear from Secretary of State Denise Merrill.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, now you know why we're proud of Connecticut. When you hear what's being said by a unanimous voice from the leadership of this state. And I'm proud to stand here joining them. You know, I'm someone that's been involved in these fights since the early 1990s. I can't claim that I was here when we codified Roe versus Wade, but I wish I were. And I'm the veteran of many of these fights on the floors in this chamber. And all I'd like to add to everything that's been said, and very powerfully by all the speakers, is that I am not only proud of Connecticut today for where we are, and I think the Attorney General is correct, we need to stand strong, and the people behind us are the ones that are going to do that. But I'm proud of the new generation of leaders who are emerging to fight this fight. Now, as I said, you know, in this chamber, in the House chamber, as many of you know, I've been here for about 30 years now. And we've had many fights on the floor defending these rights. I never thought in my lifetime I would see this day. But here we are, and we have a new generation of leaders like Jillian and Matt, who are going to take the reins on this and make sure that Connecticut remains the strongest state in the nation for the rights of women. And that's what's at stake here today. So I am very, very proud to stand with all of you. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from co-chair of the Public Health Committee, Senator Anwar.
Reproductive rights are human rights. Elections have consequences, and what we are seeing in the Supreme Court is just the beginning of a new era. This is the starting point. Unfortunately, we are moving in a time where we are going to continue to hear news which are going to continue to break our hearts, whatever is left of them. We have a responsibility to keep Connecticut, Connecticut. That's going to be our job. We want to make sure that each and every person in our state is protected. And I'm honored to stand with each and everyone around here, around this circle, in this gathering, because this is the time we have to unite and have a strong response to protect our state. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Vice Chair of the Public Health Committee, Senator Julie Kushner.
Thank you. So you heard from Attorney General Tom that he wasn't alive at the time of Roe v. Wade. I was. You were. Well, I definitely was. I was 21. So not only was I alive, but I was of childbearing age. And I remember what happened to my friends who got pregnant and didn't have access to legal abortion, including a close relative who got on a plane and flew to DC, where it was legal to have an abortion. And I told this story the other night because it's so relevant today. She should not have had to get on that plane by herself and fly to Washington, DC, and experience a miscarriage by herself. But what about the woman who didn't have the resources to fly to DC? What about those women? And that's exactly where we've returned to. A time where if you have the resources, you will still have access to free and legal abortion. But if you don't, you won't have any options. The only option will be to return to a time when women did not get safe abortions, and many women suffered the consequence of that. The other night I told my personal story about choosing to have an abortion. And I'm not going to retell it, but I will say that I got so many texts and emails and friends saying how courageous it was to share that story. And I didn't share it to be courageous. I shared it to be honest. Honest about my experience and the experience of so many women in our state and in our country. And we should not be shamed if we share our personal story. I am not surprised by the decision that is pending, but I am so very angry. Everything that has been said here about what it means for our country is absolutely true. What it means for women, we cannot go back. We can't go back to that time for women who choose to have an abortion. We cannot go back. We must resist. There's been a tremendous amount of debate about this issue in this building over the last week. And it's been contentious, it's been difficult. And we haven't really resolved, we passed great law, and I appreciate that, but we haven't resolved all the issues around abortion rights or the right to have children, by the way. And the comments that have been made by particularly by my black sister senators in the Senate on Friday night were incredibly important. And I don't think we can talk about the right to choose to have an abortion without also talking about the right to choose to have children. And for me, these two issues are inextricably linked. We must also protect the right of black and brown women in our communities to choose to have children. And that means an end to any sterilization abuse, which should never have happened and continues to happen. So I feel so passionate about this issue and willing to speak my personal story because I hope it will help others to share theirs. We cannot stop. We have to protest this decision. We have to march, we have to vote, we have to demonstrate, not just because we're safe here in Connecticut, as long as there's the elected bodies that we currently have, but because we have to protect the rights of women and people throughout this country. Thank you.
I'd like to invite up Representative Stephanie Thomas.
Thank you. I'm still shocked that this draft decision, what I read in it, and so shocked that I was speechless. So I found something I wrote some time ago, and I'm saddened that it's still relevant. I am the youngest child of a survivor of sexual assault. Being raised by someone who had to make the worst possible choice about whether to terminate a pregnancy or not helped shape my understanding of how important this choice is. When I was growing up, a clinic that performed abortions opened up down the street. And on weekend mornings, my mother and I would be waiting at the bus stop, and I would note all the people jeering at the woman walking into the clinic. And even at that young age, I thought, how awful that someone making this choice must be subject to such treatment. And my mother would say to me, if you ever need to go to that clinic, do not be afraid of those people. Walk past them with your head up and make the best choice for you. And I listened to her, and I listened to her stories at the bus stop where she would tell me she was of a different age. She would tell me about her friends who had to suffer through botched abortions. She would tell me about the shame associated. She would tell me about how other parents would force their pregnant teenagers into marriages or into abortions. And I remember thinking how lucky I am to be alive at a time when this is not the case. So to stand here today with the knowledge that some want to return to that long ago era, it's maddening to me, but it's also hypocritical. Because for me, where is that same zeal for teaching sex education, for imbuing girls with self-confidence, for teaching tolerance? Where is that zeal for equal pay for women, for lifting the minimum wage, and for holding the sperm donor in this equation accountable? And it's non-existent. So I thank all of my colleagues, and I'm proud to stand with them today in support of choice. And I can't change everyone's mind, but what I can do is beg everybody who can hear the sound of my voice to realize none of this happens by accident. Our right to vote is what put these people in this caucus today, and why we are standing up for our brothers and our sisters and everyone in need here in Connecticut. And our lives depend on the voter, and we depend on each other. And I hope I never have to read this speech again in another year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you can see, we are joined and have been joined by an amazing amount of senators and representatives who are standing for our right to reproductive freedom. So just want to say thank you to all of them for being here today. But we also couldn't do it without the advocates. And so I'd like to invite up Gretchen Raffa with Planned Parenthood of Southern New England, and Liz Gustafson with Pro-Choice Connecticut. And Claudine, come on up. Yes, Claudine with the ACLU of Connecticut.
Oh, there you are. Hi. You want to go first? Okay, go.
Thank you. Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Gustafson, and I am the State Director of Pro-Choice Connecticut. This leak is an unprecedented and devastating moment, but we also know that this outcome and this reality of Roe's future has been expected. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion is freedom. And our dignity and humanity are not up for debate. Today also happens to be my 30th birthday. And 32 years ago, Connecticut codified the right to abortion. The right to access the abortion care that I needed has always been my reality. My decision to have an abortion in 2018 was not a difficult one. Being pregnant when I did not want to be was. my abortion was not traumatic, but constantly being told how I should feel about my abortion is. All abortions and decisions to have an abortion are unique, individual, and deserve respect. I proudly and unapologetically share my story because my abortion allowed me to shape my future and celebrate my present. It is also important to mention that rights have never equaled access, and that red states don't need to be saved, they need solidarity. This means listen to organizers on the ground, donate to abortion funds, donate to independent clinics, volunteer as a clinic escort, show up for abortion storytellers. And join all of us here today to fight like hell for proactive pro-choice policies here in Connecticut, such as the Reproductive Freedom Defense Act, which will expand access to abortion in our state by eliminating medically unnecessary barriers to providing abortion care, and will work to protect patients and providers here in our state. I am proud and grateful to our legislative champions and our incredible coalition partners who continue to fight alongside of us so that each of us can access the abortion care that we need in the communities that we love and by the providers that we trust. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gretchen Raffa, Vice President of Public Policy, Advocacy, and Organizing with Planned Parenthood of Southern New England. And I just want to take this moment to breathe and to say this leaked opinion confirms what we already knew, and it confirms our worst fears. The U.S. Supreme Court is prepared to end the constitutional right to abortion by overturning Roe v. Wade. We saw the writing on the wall. This is decades in the making. This is a national crisis. This is a national abortion access crisis. The court, which is now dominated by justices hostile to our freedoms, has failed this country. We are devastated, we are furious, and we are going to continue to fight back. But let me be clear, Planned Parenthood wants everyone to know the right to abortion is still legal, it's protected in Connecticut law, and we want to ensure that our patients know we are going to continue to be there for them every day to ensure across this country people will have the access to abortion care they need and they deserve, because abortion is health care and health care is a human right. So we're not going to back down. We're going to continue to fight like hell, like I said, to ensure everyone has the power to control their own bodies, lives, and future. And on behalf of the Connecticut Coalition for Choice, I want to thank the General Assembly. The House and the Senate passed such critical legislation over the last 2 weeks. And this will ensure further protections and ensure that we continue as Connecticut as leaders in the reproductive freedom movement to, again, make sure that people, patients in Connecticut and providers know that we are here to protect them and their access to the health care they need and deserve.
Hi, folks. My name is Claudine Constant. I am the Public Policy and Advocacy Director with the American Civil Liberties Union of Connecticut, otherwise known as the ACLU. None of us want to be here today. This is not a press conference anybody wants to be speaking at. We're all actually devastated that this is happening, regardless of the work that Connecticut has made to become one of the most leading entities in protecting people's right to choose. From my perspective, I think it's really important to think about the intersectionality of abortion care, to think about that abortion care is also health care and a large piece of health care. What it means for those states that maybe aren't like Connecticut, where protections may be stripped away in the next coming months, what it means to force a femme into giving birth with no guaranteed maternal care, with in a country with the highest rates of maternal mortality rate, what it means to not have guaranteed mental health care, what it means to not have any kind of guarantee that their child will then be taken care of, that their child, what it actually means to give birth is that we are telling women they cannot choose whether or not they want another person to enter this world. We are stripping away the opportunity for a femme to decide whether or not they have the capacity to take care of another human. And that's why abortion care is health care. That's why abortion care is intersectional in nature. We cannot only think about abortion care in this one silo. We must also think about what it means for a society to show up and take care of the people that we are now telling them they have to birth into this world. And so, I encourage all of us, not just the legislators, but the organizers, the advocates, the people who are taking a day of grief and mourning before they're ready to get back up and fight again. Donate to abortion care funds, not just here in Connecticut, but across the country. Show up, post, don't stop yelling, keep talking about this. It is devastating and painful, but we must continue to push forward. I would also encourage our state and the people in this building to not stop after passing a strong abortion protections care bill, but to think about all of the things I listed as essential for a person to be able to thrive in Connecticut. They need quality housing. They need to be able to have money to take care of their families. They deserve opportunities to thrive, and it doesn't stop at strong abortion care. So I stand in solidarity with my people over here. Happy birthday, Liz. Love you, Gretchen. And we won't stop fighting. Thanks, y'all.
We are a leader in reproductive freedom because of our elected officials, yes, but it's also because of our advocates. So again, thank you to the ACLU of Connecticut, Pro-Choice Connecticut, and Planned Parenthood of Southern New England. We'd be happy to take any questions. The legislation was bipartisan. There are always going to be, well, potentially yes and no votes. But as you see, we have a strong showing today, and it has made it out of both chambers, and we have been guaranteed a signature by the governor.
Look, this isn't a political issue. This is a human rights issue. And so for us, that's almost an afterthought. What we care about is preserving people's access to control their own bodies, their own decisions about when and whether to be pregnant, when and whether to birth a child. That's what's important here in the state of Connecticut. And I would encourage, as some of my colleagues have, it does depend on how you vote in these elections, whether these protections, what we've passed, the strongest in the nation, will continue to be enforced, whether they'll be echoing across the country in the wake of this decision. So we don't view this as a political matter. We view it as a human rights matter. So that is one of many options to protect these rights that we've been considering. It was not viewed as the most immediate response that was necessary, but it's certainly something we'll be considering in the future.
Well, don't you think the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade sort of creates an impetus for consideration?
It does. We currently have protected these rights, and we will continue to protect them against other states and against the federal government if need be. But that's not a matter necessarily for this legislative session, but it's one that we will certainly be considering in the future. Yes.
It's eminently constitutional for Connecticut to pass laws about health care and reproductive freedom under our state and federal constitution, and it's eminently constitutional for us to protect our residents from attacks by other states. We are the sovereign state of Connecticut, and we have that right, and we'll defend that right all day long.
And providers would be protected in Connecticut, even if a woman is coming from outside the state. Democrats claim this draft decision would affect other rights like gay marriage or the right to contraception if it becomes law of the land. Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysiewicz called this a dark day, saying the draft decision makes women second-class citizens and takes away the choice of when to start a family. Attorney General William Tong says this is an outrage, saying that if it becomes law, our country would be split in two. If you'd like to learn more about the legal arguments surrounding this decision and the impact both across the country and in Connecticut, I invite you to listen to my in-depth interview with constitutional law professor Stephen Gillis of Quinnipiac University. It is on our streaming news channel, WFSB Plus, and on WFSB.com. We will be covering this story from all angles and bring you full reports starting tonight on Eyewitness News at 4. You can also take our Vote Now poll. Should the Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade? Right now, about 29% are voting yes in this unscientific poll. 71% are saying no. If you'd like to join the conversation, just head to WFSB/Vote Now to cast your vote. We will continue to follow the fallout of this breaking news throughout the day and evening right here on WFSB. For now, we return you to your regular programming.